Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Mukhtar Kasim. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We begin from the transport sector, where the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau has published its preliminary findings on the Abuja-Kaduna train derailment that occurred on August 26, 2025 at the Asham station, confirming that 21 passengers sustained injuries, but no lives were lost. The train, a locomotive, had departed the Idu station in Abuja at 9:45 a.m. en route to Rigasa, Kaduna State, carrying 618 people, including Nigerian Railway Corporation crew, security personnel, and service staff. The agency confirmed that initial findings and recommendations had published in its preliminary report, which is now available for download on the NSIB website. Meanwhile, First Lady Oluremi Tinubu says her 65th birthday fundraising for the long-delayed National Library project has so far generated 20.4 billion naira. Speaking at the State House Conference Center, Abuja, Tinubu dismissed suggestions that the initiative tagged Oluremi at 65 Education Fund was politically motivated, describing it as a love project born out of her passion for education. Our correspondent, Sadia Yakubu, has details.
First Lady Oluremi Tinubu said this fund, supervised by the Federal Ministry of Education and the Chief Librarian of the Federation, will remain open until December 2025 to accommodate more donations. The First Lady explained that the contributions would help revive the styled 12-story library complex in Abuja, which has suffered decades of delays since its approval in 1981 and is currently only 40% complete.
That is why if we take our baby steps in well-doing, before long things will begin to shape up for our beloved nation. We all have to rise up, play our part in the building process. A grain of sand and a little drop of water makes a mighty ocean.
The First Lady recalled her past philanthropic efforts, including raising 50 million for the National Sickle Cell Foundation, 200 million for the New Era Foundation, and building schools in Liberia. She, however, expressed confidence that the project considered national treasure will be finished within 2 years.
What is wrong in doing well or trying to build a society? If I could assist the post-war building process in Liberia, by donating the Oluremi Tinubu Elementary and Junior Secondary School in Montserrado County in Liberia, what is wrong in drawing attention to some of the areas of need in our beloved nation?
Oluremi Tinubu acknowledged support from the President, the Vice President, former leaders, former First Ladies, National Assembly members, state governors and their spouses, business moguls and members of the public.
Let's head to Kaduna State, where the head of service, Jummai Bako, has commended Governor Obasani for supporting and strengthening Kaduna State civil service through training and capacity building since he assumed office. Bako enjoined civil servants to be dedicated to their job by maintaining good work ethics, given the training they have received since the present administration came on board. The head of service made the remarks after inspecting computer-based test centers where civil servants are seeking confirmation of appointment after ongoing examinations after the statutory 2-year probationary period. Now, Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Justice Hussaini Baba Yusuf, has discharged no fewer than 35 inmates awaiting trial across 2 custodial centers in the Kefi local government area of Nasarawa State. A statement by the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Baba Yusuf, says they discharged the inmates during a visit to the Medium Security Custodial Center in Kefi. The intervention, facilitated by the Public and Private Development Center, a non-government organization, saw the release of 35 inmates who included 33 females and 2 males. Moving to Bauchi State, where Chairperson of the State Independent Electoral Commission, Jummai Abubakar, has urged residents of the state to take the advantage of the ongoing permanent voter card registration exercise to enable them to participate fully in the forthcoming elections. Abubakar gave the charge during a sensitization visit to Das local government area of the state. She explained that the essence of the exercise was to create awareness among the electorate that voter registration is currently ongoing nationwide. Away from that, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has been asked to release an interim report on the investigation into the alleged $4 billion fraud linked to the failed rehabilitation of Nigeria's Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries. Anti-corruption crusaders, under the aegis of Concerned Nigerians for the Transparency and Justice, made a demand in a statement. A probe was reportedly launched into the inconclusive rehabilitation project about 6 months ago, but the outcome of the investigation is yet to be disclosed. And now to security matters, where Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun has warned senior officers of the force against misuse of authority, particularly in land disputes. The police chief made the call at a strategic meeting with the commissioners of police and zonal commanders in the force headquarters in Abuja. He noted that the force will not serve private interest and warned that officers who cross the line will face sanctions. Chikelomo Okere has details.
Land disputes remain one of the most common sources of communal tension across the country, often leading to clashes, destruction of properties, and even loss of lives. Against this backdrop, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, cautioned senior officers to stay clear of personal involvement in land disputes. The police chief emphasized that officers must remain impartial, uphold the rule of law, and avoid actions that could compromise public trust in the force. He warns that any officers found meddling in private land matters for personal gain will face disciplinary action.
One area that continues to cast a shadow over our institution is the misuse of police authority in civil disputes, particularly in matters relating to land. Let me reiterate without ambiguity. The Nigerian Police Force is not and will never become an enforcer for private interests. Officers have no business escorting parties for land recovery, disrupting legally existing occupations, or meddling in civil claims without a demonstrable criminal element. The line must be clear, and any officer who crosses it will face disciplinary consequences.
The police chief further directed commissioners and zonal commanders to intensify security operations in the last quarter of the year, a period often marked by spikes in robbery, kidnapping, and banditry. He emphasized that leadership by example remains key, insisting that what commanders tolerate will shape the culture of the force.
As we approach the final quarter of the year, there is no room for complacency. The so-called Ember months have historically seen spikes in robbery, kidnapping, ritual killings, and highway banditry. I am mandating the following. Zonal AIGs must activate multi-layered feasibility policing frameworks.
Reviewing the police operations since July, the police chief reveals that the force arrested more than 4,300 suspects across the country, including kidnappers, armed robbers, cultists, and illegal arms carriers. Over 1,100 kidnapped victims were rescued, while more than 700 firearms and 21,000 rounds of ammunition were recovered. Chikelomo Okere, Global Television News.
Watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. When News Cycle returns, National Sports Commission leadership reaffirms inclusion of 14 constituencies in all Sports Federation Board. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and business stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back from that break. If you're just tuning in, this is the live broadcast of News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. And now to business news. The Federal Inland Revenue Service says government borrowing will continue as part of Nigeria's long-term economic strategy. The executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zak Adedeji, made this known while addressing State House correspondents in Abuja that borrowing should not be seen as a weakness, but as an integral part of the country's fiscal plan. Uyi Agbomofuegbe has details.
The executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zak Adedeji, explained that every national budget is built on a mix of revenue, expenditure, and borrowing. According to him, loans are not used for salaries, but for investments that will serve future generations, such as infrastructure projects. Adedeji insisted that borrowing remains essential to balance revenue gains with long-term national development goals.
By that time, we will have harmonized all the taxes, reduction in corporate tax rates, budget and spending reforms. Mr. President just finished meeting now with National Assembly to make sure that now that the fundamental is set, how do we have or continue to have the budget that works for all Nigeria?
The FIRS boss explained that federal revenue collection rose sharply to 3.64 trillion naira in September 2025, a 411% increase from 711 billion naira recorded in May 2023. He noted that the jump was largely driven by higher non-oil income, streamlined tax reforms, and improved compliance.
The total accretion to Federation as at May 2023 is 711 billion. That is what we made. As of September, which is last month, you will see the total accretion is 3.6 trillion. That is increase of 411%, which is just as a result of the economic reform decision that Mr. President has taken. And then when
Adedeji maintained that with reforms already boosting collections, borrowing will continue to complement revenue growth, a move he says is necessary to secure Nigeria's long-term economic stability. Uyi Agbomofuegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
Let's now head to Kano State, where over the years, tricycle operations have replaced the popular taxi, effectively creating jobs and feeding thousands of youths across the state. In this report, Global Television's correspondent Idris Jibrin takes a look at the tricycle business in Kano's transportation sector.
An estimated 60,000 tricycles operate within Kano metropolis on a daily basis, effectively creating jobs to over 100,000 youth in the state. Although some criminal activities are committed using tricycle, but residents in Kano believes that it is the easiest and fastest means of transportation in Kano.
Tricycle is very important because it helps our children to become gainful, employed, rather than involved in criminal activities.
Anas Ahmad has been riding for over 15 years, during which he was able to build a house and have a family. Anas and several other riders are now the great beneficiaries of tricycle operations in Kano.
Tricycle is helping a lot. I am helping my parents and others several under me. I have worked under several people, but today I own my own tricycle.
But there are problems. Some see this means of transportation as a means of committing crimes and addition to traffic-related offenses.
It is true, several crimes like phone snatching are committed using tricycle. Sometimes you will enter tricycle with bad people who are dangerous and may collect your belongings.
Be that as it may, tricycle operations in Kano seems to have come to stay, especially now that there is no any other means of transportation better than Keke Napep in Kano. From Kano, Idris Jibrin reporting for Global Television News.
Still talking business, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Yemi Cardoso, says 14 Nigerian banks have fully met the new capital requirements and ongoing recapitalization exercise. Cardoso disclosed this while presenting a communique from the 302nd meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria in Abuja. And now to news making rounds on the international scene, where in Malawi, President Lazarus Chakwera has conceded defeat in last week's election, clearing the way for opposition candidate Peter Mutharika to return to power. The announcement came even before the Electoral Commission released the final results. Our correspondent has details of the story. Chakwera, who first came to office in 2020 after defeating Muthakira, acknowledged in a national address that his rival had built what he called an insurmountable lead. The 70-year-old leader from Malawi Congress Party faced mounting criticism over the economy, with soaring inflation, rising food and fertilizer prices, and accusations of mismanagement dominating the campaign.
Fellow Malawians, 2 nights ago, the Malawi Electoral Commission announced the validated results of the presidential election from 11 councils, bringing their total to 24, with only the results of 12 councils remaining. From those official results, it was clear that my main rival, His Excellency Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika of the Democratic Progressive Party, had already secured an insurmountable lead and is the presumptive winner of the presidential election.
The president's 5th year in office was marked by economic turbulence in the largely rural, agricultural-dependent nation. Analysts say voters' frustration over the cost of living and job creation fueled Mutakira's comeback. Now, as Malawians await the official declaration of the results, Chakwera's concession has set the stage for a smooth handover and a new chapter in the country's democratic journey. Mukhtar Kasim, reporting for Global Television News. Let's return to Nigeria, where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says sustaining its mission across the world comes at a high price, a reality the government must constantly contend with in order to keep the nation's diplomatic ties alive. Global Television's Foreign Affairs correspondent Ramzi Enoch Agbo, who had an interview with the spokesperson of the ministry, has the rest of the story.
Speaking at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja, the spokesperson Kimebi Imomotimi Ibiefa explained that running the ministry is capital intensive, with much of the funding going into essential needs like accommodation and office spaces for Nigerian embassies abroad.
Maintaining the missions abroad is capital expensive in the sense that, one, you have to have accommodation for the embassy. Accommodation to the two key areas is, one, you must have accommodation for the office of the embassy. That is called the chancery. So you must have the embassy building, the chancery. Then you must have accommodation for the ambassador. So, and all these two accommodations have to be in prime areas in the capital.
He noted that despite the challenges, Nigerians in many countries are distinguished for their hard work and enterprise, often pursuing advanced educational qualifications that not only benefit them personally, but also contribute to the development of their host nations.
Give the Nigerian 6 months or 1 year. The Nigerian will go to school if it means taking online courses to improve himself. So instead of doing the physical labor in the construction site, before you know what is happening, he has transformed or translated to become a supervisor or a manager. So he will no longer be doing the physical work, but gradually it transited from being a supplier of labor to now becoming a management staff.
The spokesperson stressed that while financial demands remain a hurdle, the ministry continues to play a vital role in strengthening Nigeria's diplomatic relations worldwide. Ramzi Enoch Agbo reporting for Global Television News.
Let's head to Asia, where Super Typhoon Ragasa has killed at least 14 people in Taiwan after a lake burst, before lashing Hong Kong and Macau with fierce winds, floods, and storm surges. Our correspondent brings details. In Taiwan's Hualien County, a decade-old lake barrier gave way, leaving 14 people dead and 18 injured. The storm also killed 2 people in the Philippines. Hong Kong saw widespread flooding, with surging water smashing through a luxury hotel and sweeping into residential estates. Strong winds toppled trees, damaged footbridges, and shook high-rise buildings. More than 760 residents took refuge in emergency shelters, while hundreds of flights were cancelled at the city's airport. In Macau, electricity was cut off in some low-lying neighborhoods. Authorities shut schools and businesses in at least 10 cities, leaving streets deserted and rail services suspended. With millions now bracing for impact, Super Typhoon Rogasa has left a trail of destruction across the Philippines, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau. Mukhtar Kasim, reporting for Global Television News. And now talking sport. A high-powered Nigerian delegation has arrived in London, United Kingdom, for the final phase of the country's presentation to host the centenary edition of the Commonwealth Games in 2030. The delegation is led by the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Dikko, and the Director General, Bukola Olakbade, as the team gets set to make a stronger case for Nigeria's historic bid, which would see the game come to Africa for the first time. Still talking sports, the leadership of the National Sports Commission has restated its firm commitment to ensuring that 14 recognized constituencies are fully represented on the board of the All Sports Federation in Nigeria. This assurance follows consultations with key stakeholders ahead of the 4th National Sports Federation's election. The Commission emphasized that the democratic structure of sport administration is anchored on inclusivity, fairness and transparency, and therefore no constituency will be disenfranchised in the composition of the Federation's board. Barcelona midfielder Gavi could miss 5 months of the season after having knee surgery. The 21-year-old featured in Barcelona's opening 2 matches of the season before injuring his right knee during a training session in August. And that's it on News Cycle on Global Television. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using at Global Television NG. I am Mukhtar Kasim, saying a very big thank you for watching.